Welcome, everybody, to How to Become a Freelancer in 30 Days, day number 2. My name is Anthony Chatfield, and today we're going to be talking about how to create an online profile that's going to capture attention and help you get more work. Okay, so today what I want to talk about, and one of the most important things that you're going to need as you build out your freelance business, is how to present yourself. How to make sure everybody knows that you can do what you say you can do. A lot of this is going to be done on third-party websites where you're going to have to build a profile and build a portfolio and show people all the awesome stuff that you say you're going to be able to do for them. All right. So the goals today, what I want to talk about is how much money you can make, how to create an effective profile on one of the free sites that we're going to talk about, deciding what to bid on, when to bid on it, and then how to set your skills and take tests to show people that you can do these things. All right. So the first thing on that list is how much money to charge. This is the first question I always get, and unfortunately, it's not always the most important question, but it is the most relevant. There's a lot of other things you need to think about and do, but I want to touch on this first because honestly, if you can't make enough money, then freelancing is not going to be a viable alternative to your full-time job. So we need to talk about how much you want to make, also how much you need to make. Part of that's going to have to do with how much other people in the field charge, and then what is the finished product worth. So the idea here being that instead of charging for your time, which is what most people are used to doing, you need to charge for the product you produce. And from my perspective, this has always been really hard. I've always charged for time, and then when I didn't charge for time, I charged per word, which is the same thing because it takes the same amount of time, roughly, for each word I write. These days, it's a little bit different because I know the value of the finished product I produce, and that's what I charge for. And while I don't freelance currently, as much as I used to anyways, these things are still in effect. So think about the value of that item you produce. And again, a lot of this is going to have to do with other people and what they charge in your field. So if you know the standard going rate for an article for somebody with your level of experience is about 4 to 5 cents a word, and that's usually somebody who's pretty good, has a good portfolio, but maybe he's only been around for a little bit of time, then that's around what you're going to want to charge. At the same time, undercutting and charging less than everybody else isn't really going to work long term because all you do is you establish that you charge very little and people expect that. So when you increase it, it becomes very hard to do. So you want to think about how you're going to increase over time and also what other people are charging. At the same time, do you offer any bonuses that other people don't? So when I'm talking about bonuses, I'm talking about other skills. For example, when I used to deliver ebooks to clients, I would format them and get a cover and make sure they were ready to publish as is. I would often send a PDF version, a Kindle-ready version, and the Word document so they can make edits if they wanted to, all together at the end. And that's something, it sounds like a no-brainer, but most people don't do that. Most writers will send a poorly formatted draft in a Word document, and that's that. So that was a little bit of an extra thing I did, and then I know that was worth money and time to these people, even if they never said so. And that's why they keep coming back to me for their books. All right. So in terms of charging a starting rate, there are a few things to keep in mind. First, you're going to start a little lower than you might like. So, we just talked about how you need to sit down and figure out how much you need to make and what it'll take to actually become full-time at this. You might have to start a little below that. And that's just because as you get going, you have no proof that you can do this. Once you've done a couple projects and shown people that you know what you're doing, it becomes a lot easier to increase that rate rather quickly. At the same time, you have to be realistic. So you don't want to be that guy who comes on and charges, a quarter of what everybody else charges. Yes, you're going to get a lot of work, but first off, you're going to get the wrong kind of work. You're going to get it from people who don't value what you do. And second off, you're never going to be able to scale that to the point where you can actually do this full time and make money at it. So you have to be realistic. Find what the minimum amount you need to make is to survive if you were to quit your job, and start there. All right. And the next thing you can do to make sure that you're charging the right amount is to find someone comparable in your niche and compare rates. So you can either look on Elance and see what people are charging, or you can submit a request for proposal of your own, or you can just go to a forum and ask. Elance has a water cooler, Odesk has a forum, there's a few blogs. Just ask people what they're charging, and you can get a good idea of if you're in that ballpark or not. And then setting time-based goals for your rates. All right. So over time, as you get reviews, as people work with you and they say how good you are, how much work you've done for them, you will also be able to start charging more money. This mostly applies to Elance and Odesk, but those first few projects, when you have 0 reviews and nobody knows who you are, it's going to take some time to build up your credibility and make sure that people know who you are and what you have to offer. So you have to be careful about that, but at the same time, it doesn't take a long time. You don't need 20, 30 reviews. You need like 3 or 4, and then you can really start ramping it up quickly. All right, so in terms of setting your profile, now that you know roughly how much money you want to charge to get started, there are a few things you need to keep in mind. Elance does a great job of walking you through this. So if you create an account and start building your profile, it'll ask you for certain things. But the most important things, the things you absolutely need to have, are your general overview of what you do, a list of skills and abilities you have as a freelancer, an image of some sort, whether it's a logo that you've already created, and we probably haven't gotten that far, so it might be easier just to use a headshot, and then contact information. So you should have your email address, and whether it's available or not, people should be able to somehow get a hold of you. A phone number, a Skype ID, any social media links. All that stuff helps people reach out to you and ask questions before they hire you. And last but not least, you need to add samples. So if you don't have any sample work yet, you can use your first couple projects for this. Keep in mind that some people will not let you use their work as samples. If they make you sign an NDA, or they ask that you don't use it, or if they ask for copyright to the work, then you may not be able to use that. But it's actually relatively rare that happens, so always ask. There's no harm in asking if you can use it as a sample. All right? And if there's any other required spaces on there, just make sure you fill all those out. You want to have your profile as close to 100% as possible. Elance in particular uses a scoring system for how they rank people in search, and this is one of those factors, is having a fully filled out profile. So definitely worth having from the start. All right. So setting skills and taking tests. This stuff does matter a lot. It matters for credibility's sake. So if you've taken a test and it shows whatever your feedback or percentage is, it shows people you know how to do what you say you know how to do. But it also helps you show up and search for things. So if somebody searches for, a Python programmer, and you've put that as one of your skills, you're more likely to show up for that. At the same time, something like 60 to 70% of project owners will check these stats. They will see how you've ranked in those different areas and what your skills are. It's just part of the vetting process. If you are a business owner and you post a project and you get 30 bids, you need some way to start breaking people down. The reviews they have will be one of the first things they look at as the price. But from there on, if everybody's equal, they're going to look at skills and portfolio and all that stuff. So you need to have it all done. You just make it that much easier to hire you if you do. Feedback is going to be really important. For me, the minimum threshold on feedback is about a 4.5. You don't need a perfect 5, but you do need to make sure you don't have any iffy reviews in there. So just do an amazing job early. Most people will give you a good review. If somebody doesn't, don't hesitate to ask them to fix it. What can I do for you to make sure this is right and I can get this number bumped up a little bit? This is my income, but at the same time, I want to make sure you're happy. All right? And then take your tests that Elance provides. Odesk also provides these tests. There are hundreds of them. Some of them are basic, like English grammar and different types of software. Some of them are much more complicated, just to prove you know what you say you know. But they're well worth taking. They each take like 10 to 15 minutes, so it's worth doing. And then there are other ways to provide proof. You can pay a small amount of money, and Elance will call and verify things like the degree you have or references that you've given. You can have recommendations listed on there. This is all stuff that's going to help you in the end. All right, so that's today. Today what I want you to do is go to Elance or Odesk, Pick your choice. Elance is going to be better if you're a writer or a designer, if you do something with a tangible end deliverable, whereas Odesk is better if you're more on the hourly work side. There's really no major difference. It's the same company now, but take a look and see which one has more of the types of projects you're looking for and create a profile on that site. Decide how much money you want to make for your work within a realistic range. You're going to bid differently depending on what people's budgets are, so set a range and you can work within that. And then place at least one bid on a project just to see how the process works. If you want to go above and beyond and bid on a bunch of stuff today, go for it, but get the ball rolling and see what you can pull in. Keep in mind that these sites do charge for bidding. At least in the Elance side, they will charge for everything after a certain number of bids. They do have a free profile, so you can start with that. But if you really want to jump in head first and do a ton of bidding right away, you will at some point have to pay for a membership. Finally, set up tracking tools for other RSS-based sites to get work. We'll go through this in a little bit in about a week or so. There's a lot of different websites that offer job boards or skill-specific opportunities. If you are going to start using those, which you should, now's the time to start finding a tracking tool like Feedly or even just keeping track of it in Evernote or a reading tool such as the one that the Mac offers to save later for your phone. Those are going to make it easier to find jobs later on. All right, so that's today. Just get familiar with those, get it underway. In the next couple days, we'll start bidding. And until then, this is Anthony.